Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and this is another Conversations with Marty Ross MD tonight. Sorry I'm running a little bit late. I had a day that went clinically a little bit long. It does happen around here sometimes. So tonight, this is a webinar about Lyme disease. And as I say every week, you create the webinar with your questions. So I'm interested in seeing exactly what you have in store for me tonight. I hope you don't stump me too much, but every now and then I do get stumped. And if so, I will let you know. But generally, I have a way of being able to answer your questions. The way that the webinar works, you get to write the questions. And so over here on the bottom of your screen, over here on the right-hand side, is a chat box that you write your question to me in. The only thing I ask is that you try to work with brief questions. If they get too long, it's just too much information for me to share with everybody when I'm doing when I have to read it for people that are listening to the recorded version. For those of you that, and the other thing is if they are too long, it actually jams up my screen when I try to post it, and then I have to end the webinar. So one thing I would suggest, please try to be brief with your questions. If they are too long, I won't be able to answer them. I am creating a recording of tonight's webinar, and tomorrow morning somewhere around 9, I think I should be able to do it. Somewhere between 9:30 and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, you will get an email from me announcing that the recording is ready for you to review, okay? And within that email also will be links that you can use to sign up for the webinar, the next webinar as well. So next week we will have an additional webinar, and then that will be it for this month. So today and next week as well. All right. I see a lot of new names here tonight. Welcome here. For those of you that are coming back again, because I see a lot of familiar names here too, I'm glad you're coming back. You keep getting value out of these. If you do get value out of these, I'd appreciate it if you'd share with people so that as many people as I can help, we possibly can, but I need to recruit you to spread the word. All right. All right. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The one thing that I will be doing tonight is I will post your question. For those of you that are in the live version, you will be able to see that question posted, okay? But because there's a lot of people that are participating in this through the recorded version that we'll post up tomorrow, I will also read the question in the recorded version. The question doesn't post on the screen, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let's see here. All right. This is a question from Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. Let's see. Hi, Marty. I take heparin once a day to prevent hypercoagulation. Would this make me more or less susceptible to the effects of the coronavirus? Also, should I be taking bromelain or resveratrol along with it? I also have POTS. I'm worried about blood clots and vascular issues. Thank you. So, Elizabeth, the truth is, I don't know, because no one's done the research here, and this is the novel coronavirus, meaning it's the new virus, okay? What I can tell you, though, is what we're starting to understand about this virus, and that there is some evidence that one of the reasons people get sick from this virus and develop some complications, including some of the lung injury and organ injury that appears to happen in a small subset of people, is that there is hypercoagulation that happens, okay? So that having COVID-19 can result in small blood clots forming, all right? So being on heparin may, and may is the operative word, may help you if you were to get it to not have some of the hypercoagulability issues that some small percentage of people are running into, okay? That's the best I can say. I don't know if it will really help prevent anything, because again, there's no research that's been done on it, but it is possible that it might help you. Let's see. Also, should I take bromelain or resveratrol along with it? I don't think bromelain would help as an anti-inflammatory for the inflammation that happens in COVID-19 or in Lyme. So inflammation that is happening in COVID-19 that causes people to get really sick is due to inflammation chemicals called cytokines. Many of you know cytokines because I talk about them often as the main reason that people with Lyme don't feel well, all right? So cytokines are good and bad. They're made by white blood cells when they see an infection. And their purpose is to turn the immune system on. They do that by causing more white blood cells to be made, drawing the white blood cells to where the infection is, and helping those white blood cells work better, all right? That's all really good. But in Lyme and in yeast and in mold toxin illness. And sometimes with people with COVID-19, the immune system over-responds and makes too many cytokines, all right? In the case of Lyme, too many cytokines give you fatigue, make it so you can't think, interfere with how your hormonal systems work, make you hurt all over, okay? Same thing happens with mold toxicity syndrome as well, too. In the case of COVID-19, you can get cytokine surges that we still are wondering is the main cause of some of the lung damage that happens, in addition to some of these blood clotting illnesses that people develop, all right? Bromelain is not useful for those kind of inflammatory chemicals. Resveratrol may be one of the chemicals that can lower cytokines, although I will tell you my favorite actually is to work with curcumin. Curcumin at 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Curcumin is a component of turmeric, the Indian seasoning turmeric, gets inside your white blood cells and limits cytokine production. The other thing that can be really helpful in more of an acute setting is to be on glutathione, a variety called liposomal glutathione. Glutathione in a liposomal variety means it's microscopically wrapped in fat to increase its absorption, okay? And so a company that makes a good liposomal glutathione product is Research Nutritionals. Their product is called Trifortify. And whenever you're having cytokine surges or increased cytokines, being on glutathione seems to help reverse that too. The way that glutathione works is it's a very strong antioxidant that lowers oxidizing agents that trigger white blood cells to make these cytokines. The other thing that glutathione can do is it's also used by the liver to detox. And so it may help pull out some of the toxins that get released as these germs start getting killed as well too. Okay? All right. Good luck to you. Let's see here. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Dr. Ross. Thanks for doing these for us. You're welcome. I look forward to every Thursday. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. My Lyme literate medical doctor treated Bartonella first, being it was my worst symptoms. We now switched over to Babesia, but I don't think we've touched Lyme. With the Rifampin, Bactrim I was on for the last 7 months have helped kill the Lyme germ at all. I've also been on tons of supplements like biocidin, cat's claw, grapefruit seed extract, and a bunch of other things, but wondering if any of this would have helped kill off the Lyme germ. All right, so Rifampin probably can help with the cyst form of Lyme. Bactrim, there's some petri dish experiments that showed, these were published maybe a couple years ago, that showed that Bactrim might be an agent that we could use to treat persister forms of the Lyme germ. And so what persisters are, we now recognize that Lyme has growing forms to which most standard antibiotics work. And then there's forms of the germ that slow down, go into hibernation, and start ignoring regular antibiotics. We call those persisters, okay? And Bactrim may destabilize the covering of those persisters, at least according to some petri dish experiments, and make them so that, and therefore destabilize the germ, and the germ will die, basically. The biocidin has in it agents that can treat the Lyme germ, also breaks down biofilms. Cat's claw can treat the Lyme germ, both forms of the Lyme germ, meaning spirochete and microscopic cyst forms of the germ. And then grapefruit seed extract can treat the cyst form of the Lyme germ. So if you've been on any and all of those, you have done some treatments that involve treating the Lyme germ, okay? Now, I just want to talk briefly about Lyme germ forms and Lyme germ growth states, okay, because I'm throwing a lot of terms around here. So historically, we've recognized that Lyme exists as a spirochete. That's the corkscrew-looking thing, okay? You've all seen pictures of that on the internet, all right? And then we also recognize that Lyme exists in a microscopic cyst form of the germ, all right? So those are forms. Then there's also what I call growth states. There's growing forms of the germ. That means there's growing forms of the spirochete and there's growing forms of the cyst. And then another growth state is a non-growing form, which are called persisters, okay? So you can have persister spirochetes and you can have persister cyst forms of the germ too. A research project that was published out of Northeastern University looking at this, which is where they first described that Lyme can have persister forms. The Northeastern studies in their experiments showed that about 20% of the cysts in their Petri dish experiments and 20% of the spirochete forms, when exposed to antibiotics, took on the persister growth state. Okay? All right. Thanks for your question, Kelly. Good luck to you. Hello, Victoria. Hi, Dr. Marty. 6 weeks ago, I had fever and circular rashes all over my body. Symptoms lasted for 3 weeks, so my doctor had me tested for Lyme, EBV, cytomegalovirus, and parvovirus. All of them came back positive. My doctor was most concerned with Lyme, and she immediately started me on 3 weeks of doxycycline. She said that the recommendation is only 2 weeks, but she wants me to be safe and prescribed me 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to nurse my baby while taking it, which has been very upsetting and frustrating. My question is, do I need to take longer than 3 weeks of doxycycline? People I know who have had Lyme insist that 3 weeks isn't enough and referred me to you. I do not want to get a single dose more than necessary so I can get back to nursing, but I also don't want Lyme to come back if I don't kill it properly. Thank you. All right. So this is the $1 million question. Okay. So the Infectious Disease Society of America, in its new proposed guidelines, their last set of formal guidelines that were approved were from 2006, but in their latest proposed guidelines that were released last year for public comment, they're suggesting for people that have bullseye rashes, which your rashes may have been, that you treat for at least 2 weeks. That's what their recommendation is, okay? I think that's too short. There are many of us that recommend treating for 3 to 4 weeks. I will tell you, though, there is no solid science saying the optimal length to treat. Those of us that do believe in treating longer tend to think that if we treat for 3 or 4 weeks, we have less of a chance of getting into situations that Lyme is not adequately treated. What we do know is from looking at the standards that the Infectious Disease Society of America uses, which is recommending their old guidelines called for 3 to 4 weeks for an acute infection, that we would see a failure rate of 3 to 4 weeks of doxycycline of 15%. Okay, 15%. And that's because we know that 15% of people that follow those treatments go on to develop chronic Lyme. Therefore, I think most of us that treat chronic Lyme and recognize that as an illness recommend a minimum of 4 weeks of doxycycline. I will recommend 4 weeks for somebody that doesn't have a bullseye rash. But if these were bullseye rashes, I recommend even up to 7 to 8 weeks. And I'm doing that to just be as safe as possible to make sure that we get this thing wiped out. I will tell you, though, there is no research saying that that's right. And that any of us that recommend treating for that length of time, there's no strong research that supports it. ILADS, the International Lyme and Associated Disease Society of America, which I belong to, recommends that when you have a bullseye rash that you treat for up to 8 weeks. I think that's what their recommendations call for right now. So those are some points I would make, okay? I think your 3 weeks may be a little short. I think you could even make an argument for if you've had a circular rashes like you've had, that you even go 7 to 8 weeks actually, okay? Sorry about that. I know that's not what you want to hear, but if your goal is to prevent yourself from getting chronic Lyme, the longer you treat, the better actually, okay? All right. Thanks for the question, Victoria. All right. Hello, Bet. Let's see. Bitten in 1987 in Northern California. 3 years, no treatment. Went into full remission 1993 to 2000 on 3,000 amoxi a day for 2 years. Relapsed in 2001. Western blot, 4 bands positive, no real treatment in 2005 until 2005. Lyme-Bart, Babs. I lived in South Texas, 4 years of amoxi with rifampin, mepron, flagyl, malarone, zith, quinine, bicillin shots, full remission 2010 to 2017. Stress-infected tooth, failed root canal, 3 years now on antibiotics with amoxi, zith, rifabutin, clarithromycin, doing well, except I cannot be in the sun without antibiotics. Currently taking 3,000 milligrams of amoxicillin, 500 milligrams of clarithromycin. Within 5 days of no antibiotics, terrible debilitating nerve burning. A few minutes in the sun will bring total deep body nerve pain that will last for hours. Anti-yeast diet for 20 years, taking theracumin, quercetin, glutathione, all of the anti-inflammatories, cementobanderol, nattokinase, lumbrikinase. I've been for weeks on a low histamine. Low salicylate food plan helps. The only thing that stops this burning is antibiotics with I'm trying to see. Okay, here we are. Here's the second part of your question. The only thing that stops this burning is antibiotics within 32 hours. I had an Igenix Immunobot last November and had an indeterminate on band 23 and 41. 2 years of bicillin shots stopped this before. What can I do to win? Bet. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to give you an answer here right now. And the reason I can't give you an answer is you gave it a very detailed history here, but you've already done a number of things. And I would need to talk to you more about what happened on each specific one of those to get a better idea of what's happening with you. So I would not be able to pretend to be able to give you a specific idea what's your path forward. That would actually require some kind of a visit for me to give you that kind of opinion, because I need to gather a lot more information from you. Okay. There's 2 ways you could visit with me. Let me introduce you to those. Let me just pull up I'm going to do a screen share here and show you if you're interested in visiting with me about that. All right, so this is a screen share. This is what's up here right now is my Lyme disease information site. Let me show you my clinic site here. Okay, this is my clinic called Marty Ross MD Healing Arts. Take a look at my appointments page, and you will see that there are 2 options to see me, something called a limited consult service and something called a full medical service, okay? The full medical service will require that eventually you have to see me in office for me to prescribe. Right now, though, during this phase of COVID-19, I am doing all of these, or there is the option to do these as a telemedicine visit, okay? The full service, medical service, is where I can prescribe. A limited consult service is one where I will never prescribe, and therefore there is no intention that you will come out to see me in person at any time. But I can give you recommendations, but I do not prescribe in this option, okay? So read through each of these sections and see if these would work for you. I even have pricing information here. If this is something you are interested in, set up one of these appointments, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Bet. Hello, Tim. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Marty. Thank you so much for taking my question. You're welcome. Let's see. I'm interested to hear what you know about hair loss caused by Lyme disease. I'm a 32-year-old male with Lyme disease. I lost a big chunk of hair on the right side of my head. I also lost all the hair on my right calf. I'm positive it's not due to aging. Is there anything I can take to get my hair back? And would collagen powder help? Okay, so for anyone that loses hair, regardless of whether they have Lyme or don't have Lyme, there's some basic things you need to look into. One is you need to have your iron levels checked. And the best way to do that, the form that is most specific for whether you have enough iron to hold on to your hair, is to measure a level called ferritin. Ferritin is the storage form of iron in your body. If your ferritin is under 40, that can sometimes lead to hair loss, okay? Second, you need to have your thyroid levels checked, but I would do a thorough check of your thyroid. So I would get something called thyroid stimulating hormone, which is known as TSH. I would get something called free T4, something called free T3, and then something called reverse T3. I would look at all four of those to make sure you have adequate levels of thyroid. Okay, that's where I would start by looking at it. Okay, it is also possible that Lyme can lead to hair loss sometimes, but the bigger possibility when I see hair loss is that Babesia is there. Okay, so consider if you might have Babesia. And then in terms of looking for whether you have Babesia, look at my article on how to diagnose Babesia. I talked to you about how to go through the steps to diagnose if you have Babesia, okay? And then finally, if you are losing hair and you are on a Lyme treatment, look up the side effects of the various medications that you're on to make sure that they do not lead to hair loss, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Tim. Oh, let me just do a quick screen share here for you. All right, so let's see. This, again, is my Lyme disease information site. It's called Treat Lyme by Marty Ross MD. Take a look in my online Lyme guide, which gives you all kinds of information about how to treat Lyme disease, how to diagnose it, okay? And then take a look in my chapter called How to Diagnose. And here you're going to find an article I wrote about how to diagnose Babesia, where I walk you through the steps to figure out if you might have this, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Tim. Hello, Tom. Let's see. I hope you are well and staying safe, Dr. Ross. I recently had started on a low dose of Megaspore biotic for around a week and tried to move up to a larger dose, but had to stop. Since then, I've had horrible lower back and abdominal cramping for the past 7 days with no relief. X-ray shows no issues. Blood work looks good. The pain and cramping is really bad, and my ND wants to try Herbal RX or Rifaximin antibiotics, as she believes it may have triggered overgrowth. What are your thoughts? Thanks. It's possible that it could have triggered overgrowth. I would need to know a little bit more about whether you are gassy and bloated, okay? So typical picture of small intestine bacteria overgrowth is you get you kind of balloon up or bloat out when you eat. If that's not there, I'm not sure if the rifaximin is going to help or not, okay? So I don't have any other ideas for you right now. I would need to ask you a lot of questions to kind of figure out whether there's more going on here, okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Brenda. Excuse me, everyone. That is not my COVID-19. That was from swallowing down the wrong hatch. Hold on just a minute. Let's try that again. Hello, Dr. Ross. Let's see, I have chronic Lyme disease, and lately I have been contracting more upper respiratory infections than usual, although I've been quarantined with family members. Is this due to Lyme disease? What do you recommend to curb these infections? So I'm surprised you would be getting more as per respiratory infections, because if you're quarantining and your family members are not going out and you're not going out, then it makes me wonder what you're being exposed to, okay? Because typically to get recurrent upper respiratory tract infections, you would need to have exposure to new germs, all right? So the other thing to think about is, could this be allergies? And we are in allergy season. At least here in Seattle we are, and I suspect in most places in the country we are too. Keep in mind that if you're getting pollens, which you can get still if you're inside, that they're going to lead to periods of having a lot of nasal congestion and even potential irritation to your air pipe. And so they can often look like you've got an infection, but it could just be allergic issues that you have going on. That's what I would wonder about, because I have to question if you're getting how you're getting viruses. And I would not think of Lyme as doing this either. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question. Hello, Luke. Hey, Dr. Ross. I recently watched Under Our Skin 2, where they interviewed Dr. Burrascano, and he had mentioned his involvement in the biomedical field of a new test that can measure where the person is in regards to treating the germ. Any knowledge on this? And do you know the difference between Babesia microti and Tacani as far as severity? There was a PubMed article that current Babesia treatments aren't working for Tacani. All right, so first of all, about Dr. Burrascano. So Dr. Burrascano at one time was a physician that was helping a company called Advanced Laboratory Services develop a culture for Lyme germ, okay? And they, in fact, did develop that test, and about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they pulled it off the market. And the reason they pulled it off the market is there was some questions about the credibility of their research findings showing that this was a valid test. And it was eventually had a lot of holes shot in the test validity by CDC and other authorities, and they eventually pulled the test off the market. What I do understand is that IGeneX has bought the rights. I think IGeneX may now own the rights to the testing, but they, and I don't know why, they've decided not to move forward with testing, doing this test, okay? All right, so that's what I know about that. Let's see, in terms of Babesia microti and Babesia tacani, I tend to think of the Babesia tacani as being a more difficult to treat infection. And I haven't seen that study that you're talking about. I do know that on the east coast of the country right now here in the States, that Babesia is becoming much more difficult to treat. I still do not see that out here on the west coast of the country. All right? All right. Thanks for that question, Luke. Good luck to you. Hello, Doug. Let's see, Dr. Ross. You're familiar with the Heparin lymph drainage protocol to bolster the immune system and the ability to detox? And if so, when do you recommend it? Thank you. I am not familiar with that. All right. Thanks for that question, Doug. Hello, Brandy. Let's see. Many of us are low total IgG and subclasses. What are your take on how that is involved with these infections? So IgG antibodies are used by your immune system to help get rid of infections, all right? There are also other mechanisms that the immune system still has to fight infections, like certain types of T cells, for instance, can fight germs without antibodies. So if you have insufficient IgG, it does not mean that your immune system is not able to help you get rid of these germs, but it's operating on less cylinders, if you will. There are people that tend to have low IgG. Many do better if we replace that by giving them either subcutaneous injections of IgG antibodies, or if we do IVIG, intravenous infusions of those immunoglobulins too. Having said that, it comes with some risk, okay? And that even though so how they get these immunoglobulins is they're collected from multiple blood donors. So one pool of IVIG that you might get or subcutaneous IG that you might get may have been donated by many, many, many different people, and therefore you're opening yourself up to the susceptibility of getting germs that they might have been exposed to too, that don't show up in any of the screening tests that they do on these samples. Okay, so that's the big risk on that one. All right, thanks for the question, Brady. Hello, Kelly. Let's see. Hello. I'm now treating Babesia after treating Bartonella for the last 7 months. Oh, it's already answered that one earlier. So we got a number of repeat questions here. Bear with me here. All right. Hello, Lewis. Let's see. My Lyme disease and babesiosis symptoms have generally cleared up with the exception of bladder, testicular, and hip pain. I have been treated with antibiotics and herbs for 8 months. In your experience, is this from an active infection or post-Lyme treatment syndrome? All right. So the one thing I would look into, Lewis, just based on what you wrote here, okay? And granted, I'm not getting the benefit of being able to ask you questions, but bladder pain sometimes is, and bladder issues is due to Bartonella. Testicular pain can sometimes be due to Bartonella, and Bartonella sometimes gives bone pain, which could be what your hip pain is, okay? So the one thing I would encourage you to do is consider if you have Bartonella, and I'll show you an article I have about how to diagnose that here in a minute. But basically, when we consider if somebody has Bartonella, we look at the symptoms. We could do testing, but testing is not perfect. Part of the problem with testing is we recognize that there are 28 strains of Bartonella, 15 are known to infect humans, and we probably have decent testing maybe against 4 strains. That's about it. So you can have negative testing and still have Bartonella. All right. So Bartonella is known to do the following things. So see if you have a number of these symptoms. Number 1, it can give you a lot of pain on the balls of the feet. Number 2, it can give a lot of bladder irritation. So people can have burning on urination. They may have the urge to pee frequently, okay? And sometimes if a urologist looks in your bladder, may see that you have inflammation of the lining of the bladder. That's called interstitial cystitis. That seems to be related to Bartonella as well, too. Bartonella can give restless legs. It can make it feel like you got jittery legs that you got to move around a lot. And so especially that happens at night, may keep you from getting some sleep. Bartonella is known for a lot of neuropsych symptoms, and those would be things like anxiety, depression, hallucinations, okay? Bartonella can cause severe cognitive dysfunction, thinking problems. Bartonella is kind of notorious for that, actually. Bartonella can give you a lot of, can give a rash that looks like scratch or stretch marks in non-scratch or stretch marks areas. Bartonella can infect part of the brain, which is called the limbic system. And if the limbic system gets infected, it can give you a feeling like you're buzzing or vibrating kind of in your core, that you're buzzing or vibrating. Other people couldn't see it, okay? Bartonella can give you a lot of neurologic symptoms. Like it can give tremors or shakes, can sometimes give seizures, and it can give a lot of numbness or nerve pain, which would be pain that has qualities of sharp, stabbing, burning, electrical, or piercing. That's what nerve pain looks like, okay? All right. So if you have a number of those things, think about Bartonella, all right? Let me show you a quick article I've written about how to diagnose Bartonella. All right, let's see here. So here's my article. It's called, Is It Bartonella? And I review the symptoms and I review testing that you can do for it too. Okay? All right. Thank you for that question. Good luck. Hello, Shirley. Let's see. Doctor, could you please be more clear on teasel dosage? Doctors tell me not to go higher than 10 drops with Otoba. Did you really say 30 drops? I want to be sure of this. Yes, I use teasel at 30 drops twice a day. I use Otoba at 30 drops twice a day. And I use Casclaw at 30 drops twice a day. All right. Those are all herbs you can use to kill Lyme, everyone. All right. Thanks for the question, Shirley. Let's see. Hello, Vincent. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ross. Thanks for everything you are doing. I would like to know which combinations of antibiotics should I choose for intravenous use only to treat Borrelia. I have to do hyperthermia with a doctor in Germany, and for that I have to take IV antibiotics. The antibiotics are administered during the hyperthermia, so I can't take them orally. But I would like to know your opinion on an IV combination to think. So if I were to do an IV only combination, I would take Rocephin, also known as ceftriaxone, and I would do it with IV Flagyl or with IV Rifampin. Those are the combinations I would wind up doing. So I know in the German hyperthermia clinic, in addition to getting the hyperthermic treatments, they are treating you with antibiotics. And so I still question when somebody gets benefit out of that clinic, which I don't see it. I don't see it gives lasting benefits generally. But when they do get benefit, I think it may be more from germ killing from being on the antibiotics than it necessarily is from germ killing from heating up. Okay? All right. Thanks for the question, Vincent. Good luck to you. Hold on here just a minute, everyone. All right. Let's see. No, can't do that. Yeah, that works. Okay. Hello, Lynn. Let's see. Does it avert Lyme if you take herbals for Lyme a week before going hiking, camping to keep Lyme at bay when bitten by a tick? I don't know. I haven't seen any research whether taking herbal antibiotics before you expose yourself potentially to Lyme keeps you from getting Lyme disease. I honestly don't know. I do think it could help. It might, but I don't know for sure. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Lynn. Hello, Barry. Let's see. My wife finished 5 months of disulfiram, having worked up to 187 milligrams daily. She weighs 93 pounds, 60 years old. Nausea was too much. A Chinese medicine practitioner suggests trying teasel root drops to see if her Lyme was gone. 1 drop of teasel root, and she hurts terribly with crazy tremors for about 12 hours. Well, Barry, I don't know what the question is going to be here, and it doesn't seem like it's showing up here. So I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to answer this one. All right. Hello, Tracy. Let's see. I've had testing that says my IgA response is low. I know about IgA and IgA, but what can you tell me that causes low IgA And is it a risk factor for COVID? So I'm not sure. So IgA antibodies, everyone, are antibodies that are usually found on your mucous membrane lining. So it can be your nose and also in your mucous membranes within your intestinal tract as well, too. All right. And we make them that they can protect us against certain things. In terms of, is it a risk factor for COVID? So IgAs are made only if your body has been exposed to something before. Okay, so remember, COVID is also known as the novel coronavirus, meaning it's new. So I would not expect anyone to be making IgAs against it because generally they have not been exposed to it. Okay, so I don't think it makes you at any, if you have low IgAs. In general, against other infections, I don't think it makes you at any more risk from problems with COVID because no one out there has IgAs against COVID because the persons have never been exposed to it before. Okay? All right. Thanks for the question. All right, let's see. Hello, Lisa. Let's see. Hi, Doc. These are not Lyme questions, but in general, do you like the Dutch test? And do you have an opinion about bioidentical hormone replacement? Also, can mold toxin illness cause hot flashes? Thank you, Lisa Sarah. So occasionally I will see somebody with mold toxin illness that will get hot flashes. I think it has something to do more with the cytokine response than anything. I would not call it the most common symptom. Dutch Test Everyone is a company that's done a great job marketing their services for testing for hormone problems. I mean, at times I may do testing for it. It all depends on the person and what they're going through. I'm not sure that the Dutch panel is any better than any other panel at looking at the hormones, though. Okay. And my opinion about bioidentical hormone replacement, that's complex. Lisa, that's a broad-ranging topic, and I don't think I'm going to answer it here because it's not really a Lyme-related question. Okay? All right. Thanks for that question. Hello, Lindsay. Let's see, taking Banderol and Cemento for 6 months for Lyme. When I add biocidin, I feel extremely depressed. Could this be a sign I have neuro-lyme? I don't think so. My inclination would be it's probably just a side effect reaction that you're having. That would be my take on it. I haven't seen it be a regular problem for anyone that uses biocidin. I haven't seen it trigger those symptoms, but I have a Marty Ross rule of thumb in medicine, which is anything can happen to anyone with anything. And depression could be one of those things that could happen as a side effect to something. All right. Good luck to you, Lindsay. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this is Barry did respond with the second part to his question. He had written earlier that his wife was having nausea on 187.5 milligrams, I think, of the disulfiram. Do you think she could restart disulfiram at low entry and try that for a few more months? So, we all have these target ranges that we try to get the disulfiram to, but the truth is no one knows the ideal range. We don't have studies that say for people that got this dose when they weighed this much, if we gave them this dose or a higher dose or a lower dose, who did the best? We don't have those studies, okay? I do find that there are some people in my practice that are getting benefits from using really low doses of disulfiram. I think it would be a reasonable thing to think about trying a low level and see if she can tolerate it and see if it moves her forward. I think that sounds like a reasonable idea. Okay. All right. So everyone, disulfiram, I think by now most people know about disulfiram, but I'm just going to give you my quick spiel on disulfiram real quick. So disulfiram is a drug that has historically been used for alcoholism. And with alcohol, it prevents the breakdown of a toxic alcohol byproduct. And if that toxic alcohol byproduct builds up, then people get very sick when they have alcohol, okay? There was a research a couple of years ago out of Stanford University that was looking to see what drugs in the existing drug database of the United States could possibly treat what are called persister forms of Lyme. And I mentioned the persisters earlier tonight. And so he basically was scanning most of the drugs that are within the prescription database that had been approved by the FDA. And he discovered, and it was almost kind of a footnote in the article he wrote about his experiments, that disulfiram is something that would treat the persisters. And so that's why everyone is starting to use it. Okay. All right. I have a more detailed article about it. You can find it on my Lyme information site for those of you that are not aware of it. And let me show you that real quick. I'll just do a quick screen share on that. All right, so take a look at my, I think I'm going to have it here, my anti-germs category, or maybe, yeah, there it is. So it's this article called, "Is Antabuse the Magic Bullet for Chronic Lyme Disease?" Okay, and take a look. I go through the ins and outs of it and what the chances are of success on it too, okay? All right. Hello, Vincent. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ross. Thanks for everything you're doing. I would like to know which combination of I should choose for intravenous. Oh, there you go. We already talked about that earlier. Thanks, Vincent. Let's see here. Dubrovka, let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I'm diagnosed with Lyme and several co-infections. I have had symptoms of cold intolerance for several years, but more recently have been experiencing significant heat intolerance issues. Legs go numb, significant muscle weakness, dizziness, and fatigue. Can you discuss heat intolerance in Lyme patients? Why are symptoms intensified in the heat? So when I see heat insensitivity like this and intensification of symptoms, that kind of speaks to the possibility of some type of an autonomic system dysfunction. So autonomic system is a system that is also known as the adrenaline, anti-adrenaline system, or the vasovagal system, okay? And if it is not functioning correctly, you're going to have hot and possibly even cold intolerances. Why? And we know that Lyme can infect the main nerve that regulates this system. It's a nerve called the vagal nerve. So you may have some involvement of the vagal nerve by being infected by Lyme, okay? So that's what it may be, is you've got some infection in that area. All right. Good luck to you. Let's see. Hello, Anne. Let's see. What do you think of the DNA Connexions urine test? These microbes were found in my sample, and then you list them out. Is this legit? It was 4 years ago. I don't consider DNA Connexions to be a legitimate lab. I know they did a great job marketing their testing to naturopaths and integrative medicine doctors, and it seemed for a while that a lot of naturopaths were doing it. My problem with it is I tend to be a referral doctor, so I wind up seeing patients that are referred in by other physicians when the treatments they're doing are not going well, or patients will find me when they've been working with other doctors and it isn't going well. So I wind up seeing a lot of people that are having difficulty with their treatment. And for a while, I was starting to see that people were coming in with these DNA connections testing. I wasn't doing it, but other practitioners, mainly the naturopaths in the area, were doing it. And these DNA connection testing were saying that they should have Bartonella or that they might have Babesia. But when I started talking to the patients and asking them if they had any symptoms that were really suggestive of those specific infections, the answer was no most of the time. So I started questioning the validity of this lab. So in the world of Lyme, we have a lot of independent labs, and the one thing that we have to be careful with independent labs is that they've done the groundwork to prove whatever testing technique they've done, that they have done what is known as validation studies, where they take a known sample of blood of people that have a certain illness, or they take a known groups of people that are known to have an illness, and they see how effective is their test at finding it. And also they see how often their test says that something is positive when it's actually a false positive. Any lab that is done out there, we should know what is the false positive, what are their false positives, and what is their ability to actually find the illness if it is there, and what is their false negative rates as well too, okay? And guess what? DNA Connections hasn't done that. I actually wound up calling up and talking to somebody in the lab, and I was told they've never done those kind of studies. All right. So I don't trust them. I think they're a great marketing company, but I don't think they've done an adequate job to justify using that lab. All right. Thank you. Hello, Jennifer C. Hi, Dr. Marty. I found out recently that I have one SNP in the MTHFR gene, two SNPs in the MTRR gene, and one SNP in the COMP-T gene. My daughter also has born with a mild neural tube defect. How is this affecting my ability to detox, and how can I support this? So this is one to be honest with you, I doubt that one SNP is causing any problem at the MTHFR. Two SNPs at MTRR could be affecting that outcome. One SNP at the COMP-T gene is likely not causing any problems. That's my overview. Okay, now for the so one of the things that's happening more and more is it used to be when we started having the ability to test for all of these genetic defects called SNPs, okay? So you have your DNA, and the DNA provides programming for certain proteins in our body, okay? So there's a protein called methotetrahydrofolate reductase, MTHFR, that is responsible for taking diet folate and converting it from diet form into an activated form, which is something called 5-tetramethylhydrofolate, okay, or 5-MTHF. You need the activated form of folate to set off a bunch of detoxification steps that ultimately lead to the production of glutathione. All right. One of the first steps that happens after you have produced this methylated form of folate, the activated form, is that is then used to process a chemical called homocysteine, which is also part of the detox pathway. And so one of the things we can measure is if you are not creating enough of the methylated, the activated version of 5-methotetrahydrofolate, that should result in high levels of homocysteine. All right. So one way to see if we have a dysfunction that results in a problem is measure homocysteine. All right. So let me explain a little bit more about that. So you can have a genetic defect that could result in a programming error. So this one SNP problem you have at the MTHFR may lead to a malformed, deformed enzyme called methyltetrahydrofolate reductase. And if it's deformed, it may not function correctly, and therefore it could result in you not having enough of that activated folate. Okay? But what we now know, after we've all been using these tests for a while, is having a SNP does not necessarily mean you develop the actual problem. The programming could be wrong, but that doesn't mean that the outcome is wrong, okay? So for instance, you could have an MTHFR SNP of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 different SNPs, but in the end, a person may still make enough methyltetrahydrofolate to overcome that and have normal homocysteine levels. So with the MTHFR gene these days, to see if it really is a problem when somebody has a SNP, I measure homocysteine. If homocysteine is normal, then even though they may have a SNP, it's not resulting in a real problem, okay? All right, now one of the reasons that we may not get real problems with our genetic SNPs is it's possible that all those bacteria and viruses and parasites and yeast that live in our intestines that we allow to live there, they may be doing some good stuff for us. They may be making up for the genetic programming errors we have and correcting them by giving us the products we need, okay? So let me just talk about that real quick. So many of you are familiar with the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome means all the germs that live in our intestines. And we let them live there, all right? We have them living there for a reason. They give us something, all right? If you look at the significance of the gut microbiome, approximately 90% of the genetic material in our bodies is actually the genetic material of germs that live in our intestines. The parasites, the bacteria, the yeast, etc., viruses that live there make up 90% of our genetic material in our body. We let them live there for some reason. We let them live there because they're helping us with detox. They're regulating our immune system. They are perhaps correcting for some of our programming errors in our genetic code. They aid in digestion. All right. So it's possible to have a SNP, but not have it result in any real problem because it's being corrected by what lives in our gut. All right. Okay. So for MTHFR, I'd like to measure homocysteine. If it's elevated, then we have a real problem. I don't know off the top of my head what the end product is I can measure for MTRR and the COMT, okay? I would need to pull the charts out and look and see if I'm going to go measure one of those chemicals, okay? All right. Thank you for that question, Jennifer. Good luck. Hello, Peter. Let's see. I'm positive for Borrelia, Bart, Babesia. Since I got sick, my urine has become progressively more foamy, but urinalysis does not have high protein. Very worried about this. Have you encountered it before? Any ideas on what it could be? I haven't encountered it before, and I'm not sure what it could be. Sorry about that. Good luck to you, Peter. All right. Hello, and let's see. I have a history of Lyme and co-infections. After many years, I developed AFib, a high burden of premature beats, and now bradycardia, which my EP thinks is because of non-conducted PACs. Do you think this is connected to Lyme? I'm considering a pacemaker. Thanks. Let me just read this again. I'm sorry. I don't know, Anne. I tend to think of the cardiac problems that develop from Lyme usually tend to be more conduction errors, where you have something wrong in the electrical path that makes it so the electricity of the heart doesn't move as quickly, okay? So you get what are called AV blocks, primary and secondary AV blocks. I don't think that's fully what you're describing here. I would say I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question. Hello, Joseph. Let's see. With chronic Lyme fatigue and constipation, biggest issues. Taking every laxative, Docalax, Colex, Resitrans, Movicol, etc., and only helping a little bit as bowel movement seems to be affected by fatigue. Any suggestions? Joseph, this is tough. I mean, you're obviously doing some good things. There's two other things you might have tried already that I would add in this kind of a situation. One is magnesium. Magnesium will help hold more water in your intestines and may help promote bowel movements. You can take up to about 600 milligrams at night. The other thing that can sometimes help get the intestines moving is very high doses of vitamin C. So one of the limiting factors in using vitamin C orally is that if we get upwards of around 10,000 milligrams, which is 10 grams, many people get very loose stools or may get nauseated from it, okay? So if you have constipation, you can use that as a means of helping with that. So I usually have people start with constipation at about 5,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C taken all at once. And if that doesn't loosen them up, then I have them go to 6,000. And every day I have them add another 1,000 until we find a level that gets them loose. Okay. All right. So that's something for you to consider doing too. In terms of other things that can lead to severe constipation in Lyme, also in Bartonella, one of the things that can happen is those germs can infect the nerves that line the gut. So outside of your brain and your spinal cord, the largest part of your immune system is the nervous system is the intestinal tract, okay? There's lots of nerves that regulate the muscles that are supposed to squeeze poop through your intestines. And if they are infected, they're not going to work well. So the other thing to consider doing is making sure you're treating your Lyme, and consider if you might have Bartonella. You can take a look at that article I have about how to treat Bartonella. If you have Bartonella, you're not treating it, sometimes adding in treatment for it will also get your intestines working again too. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Joseph. Oh yeah, Joseph, remember as I explained earlier with Bartonella too, that you can have negative testing but still have the condition, okay? So take a look at the article I have about how to diagnose Bartonella. Again, when I explained it, I talked about it earlier tonight, I did indicate you want to focus on the symptoms that can suggest whether you have Bartonella. And if you have enough of those, then I would treat for Bartonella as well, okay? All right, good luck to you. Hello, Rhonda. Hold on here just a minute. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I have been told my Lyme has relapsed, this time in my sciatic nerve after scans excluded spine issues. My Lyme was initially found in my spinal fluid before doctor believes it has flared in the sciatic nerve. Have been treating with high-dose antimicrobial, and turmeric root tincture for the last 8 weeks, but still experiencing intense pain behind the knee, down outside the leg to ankle 8 weeks later. Goo now feels bruised, not coping with pain, using strong painkillers. Any idea how long before improving, or do I need to look at antibiotics to address? Grateful for any suggestions. Thank you. So Rhonda, the only suggestion I would have is to make sure that you're treating for both Lyme and for Bartonella. And that would require at least 2 antibiotics to do that, okay? it does sound like nerve involvement, and the two germs that can infect the nerve and can give problems like this would be Lyme and Bartonella. Both can do that. All right. Those would be the thoughts I have for you. Sorry you're having such a hard time here. Okay. Take care. Oh, excuse me here, everyone. Hello, Brandy. Let's see. What degree of Herx do you think someone should seek medical attention? If you're thinking, I think I may need to seek medical attention, I would give your Lyme doctor a call and talk it over with them. Okay. That would be, if you're that bad that you're thinking, I think I need to seek medical attention, then you probably need to be seeking medical attention. But there is not a hard, fast rule here. A lot of it depends on what the severity is. And so if you've become so severe that your pain is unbearable, or you cannot wake up, for instance, or you're throwing up, then you might need to seek out medical attention. All right. But at a minimum, if you're questioning the severity, get a hold of your doctors and talk with them about what's going on with you so they can help assess it with you. Okay. All right. Thanks, Brandy. Hello, Idrissa. Let's see. Thank you very much for what you do, Dr. Ross. I have been diagnosed with mold toxicity and Lyme. I have been on treatments for both. Started with antibiotic treatment of Disulfiram, Doxycycline, and Dapsone. 2 weeks ago, had the worst ever vertigo episode, still recovering from it. Have stopped all my meds for now. Have you had any experience with such symptoms? I'm very concerned about going back to the antibiotics. What is your thought? So with that degree of vertigo, well, first of all, I would want to know if you had any other ear symptoms at the same time. Did you lose hearing, for instance? Were there any symptoms that suggested you might have a cold at that time? So if you have any other symptoms that suggested there could have been a viral infection that led to vestibulitis or infection in the hearing part of your ear or the nerve part of your ear, that means viral infection. Means you probably can go back on your antibiotics, okay? But if this vertigo came out of nowhere without anything that looked like you could have viral symptoms with it, then I would be concerned about possibly disulfiram leading to some problems. So disulfiram can lead to neuropathy or nerve dysfunction. Vertigo is a big form of nerve dysfunction, okay? So you might think twice about going on the disulfiram, all right? Okay, good luck to you. Hello, Kelly. I see. How can I gain some weight when I'm on a gluten, sugar, dairy-free diet? I have no food allergies or intolerances. I do cheat now and then on this diet, but I've gone from 122 to 104 pounds. Any advice on how to put some pounds back on with this type of diet? Yeah. So, Kelly, for some ideas about this, I'm going to point you towards a diet that I have on my website. I'll show you the information about it here in a minute. But it basically is a paleo diet that emphasizes healthy vegetables and fruit and some protein sources, okay? Now, the protein sources could either be animal or non-animal sources. But it does emphasize healthy vegetables and healthy fruit. It just does not allow you to have any simple carbs like your breads and your sugar and your gluten, etc. And a paleo type diet gets rid of beans and legumes as well too. All right. So your main sources to gain weight in this kind of a diet is your fruits and vegetables because they are loaded with carbs. They're carbs that come with fiber. Your other way of actually getting enough weight and gaining weight is healthy fats. You can have a lot of healthy fats. So healthy fats would be things like coconut oil, olive oil, are examples of healthy fats. Ghee which is butter that has milk proteins boiled off or skimmed off after you boil it, can be a healthy fat. Walnut oil can be a healthy fat. Avocado oil can be healthy fats, okay? And fats are simple ways of packing on calories. I've seen it written one time, Gundry, who's a doctor that writes about a low lectin diet that has to rely a lot on alternative ways of increasing fat. He likes to talk about your vegetables as being a vehicle to carry fat. So if you steam your broccoli or you steam your cauliflower, make sure that you pour a lot of fat on it before you eat it, okay? Because that's a way of loading calories on to get them into you, okay? So fats, any kind of fats would be a way. Add more fats. Any way you can, add more fats. That'll be a way of getting diet back on, okay? All right, I'm weight back on, excuse me. All right, thanks, Kelly. Oh, let me just do a quick screen share here for you. All right, so take a look in my nutrition chapter and take a look at this diet called the best brain inflammation, pain, and energy detox ever. You will see information here that talks about this diet, but it lists out sources of healthy oils and about how much you should take of them, okay? Let's see here. Oh, darn. I think I forgot to share this with you. Hold on. Let me go back there again. All right. So this is the article right here called The Best Brain Inflammation and Detox Diet Ever. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let me go back here. All right. All right, Kelly. Good luck to you. Hello, Renew. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ross. Thank you for doing this and helping all of us. You're welcome. What is the best time to take liposomal glutathione and GI binders? On the bottle, it says to take both of them on an empty stomach and at least an hour away from other medications. Which one should I take first, and how long would I wait before taking the other? All right. So the liposomal glutathione, I think is okay to take with food, to be honest with you. It's still going to be absorbed, okay? The GI binders, actually, the way that I have people take them, the trouble with binders is they're going to bind up medicines and possibly supplements. So I have people stop buying other medicines or supplements 30 minutes before you take a binder. And then you can start having those medicines and supplements 2 hours after you have the binder. It is actually okay to have food with your binders. And a good time to actually have food with your binders is about 30 minutes after you take the binder. And the reason for that is whenever you eat something, it causes your gallbladder to contract. Your gallbladder is where the liver stores toxins that it's processed. All right, the reason you want to squeeze on that gallbladder so that it squeezes and moves things into your intestines a half hour after you have your binder is that where the gallbladder squeezes this out to the intestines is located at a place that it takes about 30 minutes for the binder to get there. Okay, so you take your binder, wait 30 minutes, eat. It causes the gallbladder to contract, and about 30 minutes after you have your binder, it's going by the place where the gallbladder squeezes out its liquid into the intestines at about that time. Okay, all right. So that's how I have people do it. All right. Good luck to you. Hold on here a minute, everyone. I have to just deal with this message here real quick. All right. Okay, let's see here. Hello, Tammy. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Thank you for conducting this webinar. In your anti-germ action plans for Lyme disease, when you reference Lyme treatments in the section other than kills Bartonella, do they also apply to Bartonella? Also, are the recommended doses for adults only, or are they applicable for teenagers? So the doses that I put in are generally adult and teenagers, maybe about 14 and above. Okay, generally that's about the way it's going to work. And then in terms of Bartonella and Lyme treatment, so the things that kill Lyme germs that can also work as a Bartonella treatment would be Rifampin, coupled with either minocycline, doxycycline, azithromycin, or clarithromycin. So if you're looking for something that can treat your Lyme germ effectively, the cyst and spirochete forms of Lyme, and that will effectively take care of Bartonella, something that uses Rifampin, coupled with either minocycline, doxycycline, clarithromycin, or azithromycin. Okay. I hope that answers your question. I think it may. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question, Tammy. Good luck to you. Hello, Diane. Is there anything that will help with an extremely itchy scalp? It itches all the times. And what is causing it? Thanks. I have Lyme, Babesia, and Bartonella. So itchiness of the scalp could be due to a dry scalp. So you might want to have somebody take a look at it. It could be due to dandruff. So you might want to have somebody take a look at it. It could also be due to having too many histamines made because you have too many yeast living in your intestines. This is one of those kind of situations I think you need to talk to one of your doctors and have them actually look at your scalp. Okay? All right. Thanks for that question, Diane. Hello, Vincent. Let's see. Hello. I would like to ask you a second question if it's possible. I have neuropathies in all my body, and I've been diagnosed with Lyme disease, but untreated for 12 years. With your great experience, I would like to know if you have familiar cases of strong neuropathies and pain in the nerves because of Lyme and what works to get at these pains. Thank you. Let's see. So Vincent, one of the things I would say is for me to give you the best advice, it'd probably be better if you and I actually had a direct conversation, okay? But just to answer your question, how do you deal with the pain? First of all, you want to treat your infections. And nerve pain often is going to be part of Bartonella or part of Lyme. So you want to be killing those germs, all right? That's number one. Number two, you want to get inflammation down. And that means lowering inflammation cytokines. So I like using curcumin, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. The product I like using for that is a product made by Thorne, which is a liposomal curcumin. And again, that would be 500 milligrams 3 times a day. The other thing you can do herbally that might help is to use an herb which is called L-theanine. Excuse me. So that's L-theanine. L-theanine is a chemical that comes from green tea, and in the brain it is converted into a chemical called GABA, Our brain and nerves in the brain have some receptors that are called GABA benzodiazepine receptors. And if you get more GABA to a GABA receptor, it can help with nerve pain. A dose of L-theanine, it comes as a 100 milligram pill, and you can take it anywhere from 100 milligrams 3 times a day up to 300 milligrams 3 times a day. You can see if that might give you some benefit. If that doesn't work, then you're going to be looking at prescription options in terms of regulating that pain. And generally, when we look at prescription options, we're looking at medicines that are either certain classes of antidepressant medicines, or we are looking at using anti-seizure medicines, okay? And let me show you an article that you can read more about this to see what those are exactly. I can do a quick screen share here. Okay, so let's see. There's a chapter I have on pain. Okay, and I talk about pain treatments. All right, let me see this one. All right, and I talk about a number of things, how to deal with inflammation, and then how to deal with the neurologic pain. All right. And under the neurologic pain, that's a good point. The other thing you might want to think about is medical marijuana. All right. So take a look at this article. It talks about various things you can do. I go through anti-seizure medicines like Lyrica. Antidepressant medicines like Lyrica and Cymbalta that can help with nerve pain. I talk about Lyrica, Neurontin, Gabatril, and Topamax that can help with nerve pain. And I talk about amitriptyline, nortriptyline, desipramine, and imipramine that can help with nerve pain too. Okay, but this article kind of gives you a whole overview on how you approach nerve pain in Lyme disease. All right, Vincent. Good luck to you. All right. All right, everyone, that's it for me for tonight. It's been good to be with you here. And so keep an eye out at your email tomorrow morning. I'll be getting a copy of the recording for tonight out, along with a listing of what we actually discussed in this as well, too. Okay. And that should come out to you tomorrow morning. And then feel free to sign up for next week's webinar. I've had a good time being with you here tonight. And again, if you keep getting some benefit out of this, please share the information with others about the webinar so they'll sign up and join us in on this too. Okay. Good night, everyone.